Thanks for tuning in to Tax Strategy Digest, where we explore the fascinating world of finance. Join us as we dive into the stories, insights, and experiences of experts, thought leaders, and everyday people who are making a difference in this field. Through engaging conversations and thought provoking discussions, we'll take a deep dive into the latest research, trends, and innovations shaping finance. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn something new on this journey here with us. Welcome to this episode of Tax Strategy Digest. Today we have our first repeat guest. It is Mando Sallavanti. Mando is a financial advisor. For those of you who didn't listen to the first episode, I recommend go listen to that one. But today we're going to be talking a little bit about what he does, who he helps, and how he's helping his clients live the lives of their dreams. So Mando, really great to have you back. I'm excited to talk it all up.
Paul, my man, appreciate you having me. Excited to get into things today and dive deeper into what we both got going on.
Cool, man. Well, hey, I noticed this right when you hopped on the Zoom call. Talk to me about the $100 million leads. The 10x is easier than 2x. $100 million offers you got going on back there.
Yeah, so a couple books behind me. I'm going to lean back so I can hopefully hit them all. $100 million offers, $100 million leads, 10x is easier than 2x, 75 hard, go this way. We got Think and Grow Rich in 12-week year. I won't hit on them all, but I'm going to hit on a couple. $100 million offers. That book from Alex Hormozy made me question my entire model of business. And what I mean by that is before we were working as most advisors do on that AUM model where it's like, hey, if I manage your assets, we'll charge you a fee and we'll charge you an asset fee that's deducted from your account. And we'll give you advice, assuming that we manage the assets and you're our client and the world is great. I realized something as we started to get more into the niche market that we're in, which we'll talk about this and I'll go into it now. I'll go into it now, but we'll put off the details. In our niche market, which is primarily people in SaaS or tech, and it's everyone from high performing sales reps up to the CEOs, CROs, the founders of these companies. Not all of them necessarily like to have a majority of their wealth in the stock market. Now, don't get me wrong, we still have the capabilities to manage assets, but for people that want to invest in private equity or maybe commercial real estate or single family real estate or whatever asset class that we don't necessarily get compensated on, those people still want advice. They still want planning. So through reading $100 million offers, the whole thing in the book is how do you create a grand slam offer? How do you create something that people just feel stupid saying no to? So we transitioned to a retainer based model, which it's not revolutionary. There's a lot of advisors out there that do a retainer based model, but we have our retainer based model where we charge a fee per year. It's basically determined on the client's complexity. And that book had a profound impact on my business. It's really just been a rocket ship since then.
Nice. What about some of the others? What about I know a big one for me personally is 10x is easier than 2x, and it's really just about trimming off that 80% that is kind of just wasting your time and focusing on that 20%. And it's I know you had some back and forth, it looked like on LinkedIn with what is it? Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I think that's
Yep.
his name, right? And he's
Yeah.
one of the writers of it. And so I thought it was pretty cool. So I wanted to get your opinion on it for sure.
Yeah, he's the man. His team sent out about a dozen books, and I passed them on to some people in my life, passed a few on to my team. And reading that book opened my eyes, made me realize something. Can't do big things alone. You just can't. I mean, you can go far alone, but you can go further with people alongside. Paul, I read that book. I'm not joking. I interviewed 5 assistants immediately after reading that book and hired my first assistant. And she's been with me since August of last year when I read that book. And she's just helped contributed to some major growth in the business. And I don't know how I was operating without an assistant before. It just makes no sense. Now, granted, I had help from people around me, but that was a big thing. Another thing, teaming up with my partners. I mean, I was already in talks with them to team up and how we did things, how we delegated things to our strengths. And it works out really great because there's 4 of us we all sort of have different strengths. And though we're good in similar areas, there's other areas where some of us just sort of have that quote unquote superpower, if you will. So that book was really foundational with that. And off of that, the who, not how concept that Dr. Ben Hardy talks about. This is another book by him, Who Not How, but he does touch on it in 10x is easier than 2x. It's just made me think like I need to stop being analytical about how to achieve the things I want to achieve. And I need to think about who can help me achieve these things and let the how unfold how it will later. So something I talk about often is I'm going to pay in money every time I can to learn a skill or progress my learning curve on something rather than time. And that sort of goes hand in hand with the who, not how concept. So those were a few things from that book that really were groundbreaking for me.
I like that concept a lot. What are some of the things you've used that for maybe this year or just in your practice in general?
Two major things. So last year, I hired a coach, Nat Berman, for help with branding on social media, mainly LinkedIn, but social media and marketing in general. Hired Nat. I mean, I paid him 6 grand for the engagement, and it was 3 months. I had made 12 before the engagement was over, and now I have the skills and the knowledge that he gave me, including the relationship with him, and that's going to compound forever. Like 6 grand for 3 months might seem like a lot to some people up front, but at the same time, I look back on that and I'm like, I would have paid triple that probably if I knew what it was going to pay off for me. So Nat is someone, I mean, another person I got to shout out is Simon Granner. Simon is a coach of mine that I've worked with sporadically, but now we're working together long term and we have an ongoing engagement. Simon gets my world as an advisor and what I'm trying to build. And he has knowledge in different areas when it comes to financial planning for business owners and how to provide that extra tier of service and truly be a cut above the rest and be best in class that we often talk about with business owners. He's been another who for me. So of recent times it's been Nat and it's been Simon.
Nice. So what are some of the, because you changed a little bit on who your target like clients are because like you have a certain focus on who you know you can help best. So what has that kind of shifted to as of lately?
Yeah, over the past year, I mean, I'll go back 2 years, Paul, and really before it was Gen Z. And I think when we first did our interview, that was who I was focusing on. And I was focusing on Gen Z because I'm like, well, these people need advice, even though they might not have all the assets. And then as I realized that, and my business model was changed, as I talked about with $100 million offers, inspiring that. Then I started to find myself in this world with a lot of people in the SaaS world, which I think a lot of people in the SaaS world or tech world, they like alternative investments because they're around all these cutting edge technologies. So they see the startups and they see other opportunities. And it's like, hey, if I have 25 grand, maybe I want to stroke a check to invest in that startup rather than put it into Microsoft. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I saw an overlap here. And then more of these people in tech started coming. More of these people in tech started coming. And at first it was really sales reps, and as we started to work with sales reps, some of our clients that are sales reps are even going out and starting their own business. So they're morphing into like that next level of client, but also business owners were coming in as well. And we're working with the owners, we're working with people who are in the C suite, but we're also working with the high performing sales reps.
Cool. That's really cool. So mostly SaaS professionals right now.
Yeah, that's probably 75% of our client base.
Pretty cool. What about I know you mentioned last time that you were working pretty heavily under your dad's financial advisor, your parents' financial advisor. His name was Timmy. Are you still
Yeah.
pretty close with Timmy?
Yeah, so Timmy's one of my partners. I have three partners: Timmy, Michelle, and Aggie. We're all partners and quote unquote equals, if you will. So when we meet with clients, they meet all of us with the new
Cool.
process. They have a relationship with all of us, and we just think all four of us do different things great. and we all bring different perspectives to the situation. Like, for example, like with uncovering the desires or the pains that some clients have, Aggie and Michelle are just they're just flat out better than at that than me and Timmy. Like I'm just going to be completely honest. And getting to some of those touchy feely subjects that with financial planning you might not think of that, but they're so important with financial planning because everything is personally motivated and emotionally motivated, and we need to factor those things into planning. And on another example, like Timmy is better than all of us at painting someone a picture and making the intangible tangible. Whether it's a business owner or a salesperson, like a lot of these concepts and a lot of this stuff that we're doing and planning for people, whether it's, building a business to sell or exiting a business, these are intangible things. And a lot of them are pie in the sky conceptual, but we need to bring them to the present and paint that picture for the owner so they could see like, okay, this is why we're doing X, Y, and Z, and this is how it could unfold, and et cetera. So just as another example, like Timmy paints that picture better than anybody. So those are just a couple examples with them and how we operate as a team.
What about you? What is your strong suit? Why do people come to you specifically?
Man, it's a great question. I think, I've reflected on this a lot. And someone asked me recently, Mondo, why are people beating down the doors to work with you? Why do they get on these calls with you and you guys are just overflowing with clients? And I think that my authenticity shines through, but also I think people get a feel for how hard of a worker I am. And like, here's the thing, Paul, let's just paint this picture. It's no secret that I'm 25, about to be 26. So am I the most knowledgeable financial planner in the world, even though I'm a CFP and about to have my CEPA, Certified Exit Planning Advisor? No, I'm not. Am I damn good at what I do? Yes. But I lack in certain areas knowledge wise. So what I'm better at than most people, in my opinion, I'm a relentless problem solver, man. If there's something that needs to be done, I have a resource. I know how to go find that resource, and nothing's going to be stopped until I get that person. So I think clients really value that. And also the accessibility. Like my clients always joke every time I get a call or a message or an email or whatever. Now, not every time, but most of the time, like I'm on the ball, like I'm on top of them. I'm getting back to them immediately. And that's something that people appreciate. So for me, it's like, what are these controllables and how can I just keep myself disciplined and dialed in to control everything I can for the clients and then use my resources around me to make sure that the rest of the situation unfolds in the best way it could.
I like it. I like it a lot. I did want to bring something up as well. It's a little off topic, but I just wanted to say how much I do appreciate your authenticity because there's a lot of advisors everywhere. I mean, you see them every day on LinkedIn posting about XYZ, who knows what it is, but they're not really like walking the talk. They're saying all this stuff on LinkedIn, but they're not actually doing it. Whereas I think the first time we ever talked, you were like, yeah, I'm looking at, houses. I'm going to buy a house. We're going to rent out. It's one of the rooms. We're working with a lender right now, the whole nine yards, right? And then a few weeks later, we talked again, and I think it was right when we just hopped on the first podcast. And you go, "Hey, man, yeah, like we just got our offer accepted. We already found a renter." And I was like, "Oh, no way! Like this guy's doing it. Like that's pretty cool." And so I just always appreciated that. That's why I was like, "Oh, Mondo's a cool guy. I really like this guy." And it looks like right now, is that you in your new place?
You took the words out of my mouth, man. First of all, like, thank you for the kind words, first of all. But second, yeah, man, I mean, we closed on that property last year. We moved in, lived there. We're within a 15 to 20-minute drive of like 5 different hospitals. So we've been Airbnb the other units. Our unit that we moved out of, we actually are getting that up for rent. It should be by next week. And we're going to continue doing Airbnb for all 3 units. And it's been really successful. So we've been able to parlay that uh, investment, because really it was an investment, into now having our home and single family home. And then we have that rental property. And I mean, you look at the value of the two properties, I've only had to put down less than 10% as a
Right.
down payment. And I now have 4 rental units plus our home, and we're not living with people above us banging their feet on the ceiling anymore. But like, it goes back to the point, people aren't willing to make short term sacrifices for huge long term things. That move set me up forever, flat out. Like, I'm going to look back years and years in the future and be like, man, my life would be so different if I didn't do that. And Paul, not for nothing, I'm out here building in public. Like, you know a lot about my life, and it's not like me and you are talking every other day. Now, like, I
Right.
think me and you are closer than most people that I know from LinkedIn. I will say that. But like, I put it all out there because I'm just a transparent dude, and I think that that is going to help me more in the long run than not. So for me to be doing that, dude, I'm helping people with their money. I could be coming from a scarcity mindset, and we're helping, multimillionaires with their money. I'm not a multimillionaire yet, but we're helping multimillionaires with their money out here. So now I'm on LinkedIn talking about, yeah, we're going to house hack for our first house and this, that, the other. Like, I think some people might look at that and think, if they were doing that, or if they're doing it in general, what are these people going to think of me? Are those people still going to work with me? Like, what does that look like? How does that look? You just can't go through that. And I a part of my strategy and really just intention is I want to share those things. Like, I just want to share my personal financial journey, what goes into it, what it was. And selfishly, it's to be able to look back in years and years and years, and like, for my kids and for my grandkids and nieces and nephews and like all of these people, you talk about legacy, I can be like, hey, here's what I did. Like, I can literally show you this step for step with no BS, because this stuff is just on the internet. Here's how you do it. So I rambled a little bit there, got on some tangents, but yeah, man. So
No, that's perfect. It's pretty cool. Yeah, you can show exactly step by step, really, hey, yeah, in February I did this, in April I was doing this, and then you can be like, hey, look, in June I did this and it totally failed. I lost a bunch of money and I learned from it, so I never did that again. And yeah, whatever, I lost $4,000. I made a bad investment, but guess what? This is what I learned from it. So I think that's pretty cool. You can show them.
like, imagine how cool it would be to look back on a mentor or your parents or whoever, if they were creating content every day talking about their professional journey or even just like their personal journey. Like, imagine how cool it would be to be able to look back on those things. I think about that all the time, and I remind myself this, which creating content and putting myself out there has become second nature now. Like, I could get trolls in my comments, and like, I just don't even get triggered anymore. I just laugh
Right.
at it at this point. But I just think about if my parents were doing that or other mentors I had, like, it would be so cool to just look back and see, like, who were they in that moment? Who were they when they were me? And that's part of me doing it.
It's pretty cool to think about. And too, I think about that all the time with like Instagram and Facebook, because our parents, like, they had like scrapbooks and photo albums and things like that, or maybe there's some like videos or some like early on digital cameras, right? But there's no like Instagram. So like our kids, like, they will be able to see, hey, like, my dad went and did this, like, when he was 18, like, he was doing this, these were his friends, this was a video of them, at a Halloween party, and they were they just joined a certain company, like they were at a company party, whatever it is, right? And I just think that's so cool to think about and look back on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree, man. I agree. It's interesting. It's gonna be cool to see when guys like us are in our 60s, and it's like young people are like, look what I found from 30 years ago.
Well, I'm a little scared about it. I don't know if you've seen like not about people finding stuff. You could look through whatever, I don't care. But no, I
Right.
mean like technology, right? Because like right now we are for the most part probably the cutting edge of technology. We understand all the different stuff that's going on, and we see Chat GPT and we're like, "Oh, okay, like cool, like AI, yeah, whatever. I know how to use it." But there's some people like when we're 60, like the current generation who's a little older than us is right now, like if you say AI, it's just like, oh, eyes open up wide. It's like a huge like thing no one really understands. Like, and so I'm just, what's going to be that for us when we're 60? You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy to think about. It's like the new Apple the iPhone, or what are those?
Yeah, the Vision Pro.
Yes, the Vision Pros. Is that going to be like in our contact lenses at some point? You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at that right now and it looks like, wow, that's cutting edge, but in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say that what's crazy is like that'll probably become I mean, it'll be like an iPhone, I think, where when the iPhone first came out, it was so expensive and very few people got it. And then, they mass produced them and the technology isn't so crazy to be cutting edge, if you will. And now more people have it. And I think the Vision Pro will be the same thing. Like, what are they, 3,500 bucks now? They'll probably decrease in price over time as adoption is uh, increased and they're cheaper to produce for them and whatever. But I mean, dude, it's one of those things. Like stuff is just always evolving, and you either change with the times or get left behind.
Right.
I see people even so. Nat that I mentioned before, my coach from last year. Nat's like in his 40s, and he's got a family and he's got kids, and like, but Nat is on top of stuff. And a lot of the 40 some year old people that I know, if I was going to go to them about social media or like other stuff, they would just have no idea. So I think it's just an example. You either change with the times or you get left behind, and it all starts with yourself.
Yeah, I think along with that too is like using social media to your benefit. You've done a great job at it. I mean, obviously on LinkedIn, like I don't think I've seen a post of yours that didn't go crazy. You've got a lot of like you got like a cult surrounding you. And it's pretty funny. I love seeing it. I always make sure like half the comments are like, yo, Mondo, where's the red seatbelt? You know what I mean? And so I love seeing it. It always like makes me smile. And so what did you do that really gave you that like following of people who were really loyal to your content? And because that definitely helps out your business in one way or another, just having that presence, whether it's directly getting clients or, maybe a client does some due diligence, kind of a background check, looks you up and they just see, your authenticity and different things like that. So how did you really take hold of everything social media?
Dude, it's such a good question. Like it's such a good question. And what people don't realize, like you go to my post today, I'm getting 150 comments on a post on a bad day. Like that's like what it is now. And it's just crazy for me to say that because I've been posting almost 600 days in a row. When I started posting, I was getting, 5 likes, and I was one of them on most of my posts.
Yeah.
But I still did it every day. And I still commented on other people's posts every day. And even now, I'm probably commenting on 50 to 100 posts every single day within a 2 hour window. And not just like great post, love this. Where that quote unquote like cult like community, and obviously like it's a joke saying it like cult like, but
Exactly. Yeah.
Paul, I've developed so many great relationships with people one on one because when I'm leaving comments, when I'm dropping messages, I'm not just doing it for the sake of doing it. I'm doing it genuinely to build a relationship with that person. And there's a great quote. I first heard this from my friend, which I met from LinkedIn, Hampton Dorch. I don't know if you know Hampton, but
I think I'm
he
connected
says,
with him.
yeah. So Hamp says, be interested and you become interesting. And that's stuck with me forever. And I mean, I don't know where that originates from, but he's the first person I heard it from. And like, I've just taken that mindset with LinkedIn of like, just be interested in other people, build one relationship at a time. And if I could build one really good relationship every single week, never mind every week, because it's doable every day if you're intentional. If I could do that every day, every other day, that's 170, 180 relationships a year where these are people that some of them are probably going to have a vested interest to see what I'm talking about, who I'm talking to, what's going on in my life, what I'm doing. And back to the authenticity, I'm not just on LinkedIn talking about why I'm so great and what my achievements are. My content has a very specific purpose of sharing my journey, even the bad stuff, but also leading with helping people and giving value, speaking to my ideal clients. And we were talking about this before recording. Like, you can't be afraid to push on people's buttons a little bit. This is something Nat taught me, but I've really leaned into this, like poking the pains that people have, poking the pains my ideal clients have. And I think that this bleeds through in what I do of being authentic, because I'm going to tell you if there's something you need to hear, even if it's going to sting to hear it. So a combination of all of that has really been what's led to what LinkedIn has turned into. And like I was telling you before, man, if you told me it would have turned into this, where I have 20 some thousand people following me now, like I would have said you were crazy. I never had more than a couple thousand followers on social media platforms. And most of those were just college football teammates or people I met in college and whatever else.
Yeah, it's crazy what LinkedIn can do. Just the other day, so I volunteer at like it's called Challenger Baseball. It's an organization for kids with disabilities to get to play baseball. And so I'm one of the coaches out there, and I posted about it on LinkedIn, and actually one lady who she lives in, I believe it was Maryland. I double check, but she's in Maryland, and she sends me a message. She comments, sends me a message, and so I sent her some of the information, and we got a PayPal notification that she sent $50 just randomly, like just supporting it. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is the power of LinkedIn. Pretty crazy. Like someone I didn't know, I'd never talked to, was completely on the other side of the country. We weren't even connected. Like she saw it through someone else who liked the post. And so I just thought it was so cool, like just seeing like the true power behind LinkedIn. And um a little side tangent, just because I saw your red cleats up there. Totally not even related to what I was just talking about. But I think it would be a disservice to everybody listening if I didn't ask you this question. So I would love if you could talk about the backstory of the red seatbelt.
Yeah, it's the best accident that ever happened in my life. So I like cars. I'm not your car guy that's like knows the engines and the ins and outs of cars like that. Like,
Sure.
dude, if you told me to go change my car's oil right now, like I'd be looking up a YouTube video flat out. Like that's me. But I get this Mercedes car back in 2022, late 2022. I always just took videos of myself in my car or even like just selfies as pictures to post on LinkedIn. And like the only strategy there was I want to put selfies out because I figured if I post a lot of selfies, it's going to make people feel like they know me more because my face just pops up all the time.
Yeah.
And that has worked. Like I get that feedback from clients that come from the platform. But as I was posting, and I never even thought about it because the car I have has red seatbelts, and they just came with the car. Like it was never like something that I said, like, let me put red seatbelts in my car.
Yeah.
People started calling it out. They're like, what is that seatbelt? Like, where did you get that? And then they just would start saying, like, oh, there's that red seatbelt again, and over and over and over. And now, dude, I've just leaned into it so much. It's like, all right, cool. Let me be known as the guy who has this hair that's like sticking up all the time and has a red seatbelt, and he played football and he likes to collect sneakers. And oh, by the way, he's a financial planner and does pretty good work. So it was the best accident that ever happened to me. It's one of those things where, like, I have no way to quantify this, but if I could, I would. And it's really cool that the red seatbelt probably is going to, if it hasn't already, end up paying for my entire car. And like, we're not talking a Toyota, like it's a Mercedes. It's not cheap. And like, I recognize that, but it's so funny, man. It was a complete accident.
Yeah, have you gotten a lot of leads like straight off of LinkedIn, just like people who've seen your posts and they're like, "Hey, Mondo, like I would love to like learn some more about what you do."
So we get about 12 inquiries a month
Okay. From just LinkedIn?
just from LinkedIn.
Wow.
That's excluding anything that comes, locally or referrals or anything like that. Like
Right.
12 inquiries a month is the average from LinkedIn.
That's crazy. Did you ever see that happening? I know you said like the followers and stuff, like no, but like a social media platform in general, like even if you were paying for the ads on there, 12 inquiries a month is pretty substantial for like organic especially.
Yeah, I mean, when you take into account there's business plans that we do that we charge up to $25,000 a year. Like, it's pretty crazy when you're getting 12 inquiries a month. Like, pretty nuts. Now, all of them aren't large business plans like that. Like, we have personal people that are two, three, four, $5,000 plans. But I never thought it would get that way. When I started 2 years ago, Paul, my goal was let me get one extra client a month. And I was like, matter of fact, maybe one every other month, because if I do that, that's six extra clients a year. That's probably like an extra 20 grand in my pocket of income. But just in 2023, I made over six figures additional on my income. Like, if I was not on LinkedIn, I made over $100,000 more solely because of LinkedIn.
Wow.
Like, solely because of LinkedIn. And dude, it was my first full year on the platform. So it's just crazy. Like, the growth this year, January was one of our biggest months ever, and it's only going to continue. I mean, we're still getting the level of inquiries, we're still growing, and now we're retaining clients. So now you add that recurring revenue into the new revenue that's coming in. I mean, the business is exploding, and I think anybody can do it on LinkedIn. You just need to be strategic. You need to be a human. You can't be on there going for the jugular and just selling people. I mean, it's all attraction marketing. People come to me. I'm not out there like, hey, do you want financial planning? Like, people come to me when they want help.
Yeah. Yeah. And if there was someone who was looking for some advice, what's like the one piece of advice you could give them? Let's say other than being authentic, because I think that that one's a kind of a given, especially if they're familiar with your content.
Yeah. I can't just give one thing, but the one thing I will say you got to start with is like, really, if you're trying to get clients with the platform, really define who are you trying to attract. Like, I have this whole made up person called Antonio Angelo with a whole life story of like who he is, his business in SaaS that he runs, the EBITDA that it has, the expenses it has, the employees he has. Like, I'm going to this depth in who I'm talking to. Like, I can't rattle that off if I was making it up flat out. So like, you really need to define who am I talking to, because once you have that person, you can define what are their pain points, how do these materialize in their life, what does this look like, what is the picture that's being painted from this, and where do I get content from. You write your content towards that person and all of those things, and then you throw in some personal stuff and be fun and talk about yourself, because people want to see that side too. So that's the first quick thing. But another couple things I would say, just make relationships. Like, how do you build a community? One relationship at a time. And that's cliche and that's simple. But here's the thing, I've been doing it for 600 days. So if I focus on one relationship at a time for 600 days, that adds up. Most people aren't going to do the 600 days thing. That's why it's not going to work out for them. Like, that's just flat out the truth. So if you could go in, you can interact on there. I know a lot of people are busy. A lot of people have careers. Look, man, I'm as busy as anybody. I'm running 15, 20 meetings a week with clients, but I have 2 hours in my morning, every morning, be on LinkedIn, interact with people, have conversations. And the rest of my day is taken care of with clients. So it's doable. I think you got to be intentional with your time, focus on the one-on-one relationships, focus on who you're speaking to, and you'll end up okay.
Perfect. Well, Mondo, as we start to wrap up here, I want to ask you again, because sometimes this does change a little bit. What's your why? Why are you doing what you do?
This is deep, man, but for me, like, my family and my parents and everyone, the older generations in my family, they all come from lower middle class. And my parents have done well, other family members have done well, my grandparents have done well in raising that standard. But even still, it's just like, we have those problems that most of America has, that's in your middle class and in your lower middle class. And Ed Milet talks about the one from a family that just changes the trajectory of everything from their life on. And it's like, you go from being that family that had to have the same kids pass down the same little league bats and the same hand-me-down clothes, to being the family that can buy new stuff and can go on a couple vacations every year. and doesn't have to worry about credit card debt that they're paying back, or doesn't have to worry about how they're going to afford to send their kid to the basketball camp in the summer. Like, I'm fortunate I grew up and didn't have to worry about a lot of those things, but I have family members that still do, and I know people that still do. And I just I want to be the one that sort of sets that new standard. I, Paul, I want to be so successful, not only financially, not only financially because I want to live a certain lifestyle, but mainly financially because I want to help other people in my life avoid problems that they have. And I don't want to go into details with that, obviously, because some of them are very personal things, but there's people around me that are facing problems solely because of financial reasons. And I'm not here because I want to save everybody, but it would be really nice to be able to have the financial means to solve some problems for people that I care about.
I love it. I love it. I always appreciate when family is part of the why, because I mean for me it's the same type of thing. Family is always definitely a big part of it. So Mondo, I appreciate you hopping on here again. I do want to give you a quick chance to remind everybody, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn is going to be the easiest way. Follow me on LinkedIn, Mando Sallavanti the third. Shoot me a message. Honestly, like I said, like one relationship at a time. Anybody listen to this? I really mean that. Shoot me a message. I will respond. I don't have a virtual assistant that handles all my stuff. I do everything. So if you get a message from me on LinkedIn, if you get a comment from me on LinkedIn, it's me. I will respond to you. I respond to every single message that I get, unless you're a jerk. Just kidding. I know you're not a jerk if you're listening this long, but I'm neurotic and need my inbox at zero. So you will get a response from me at the minimum because of that. But I honestly just hope to meet more people that are, especially that are listening to this.
I love it. Well, Mondo, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll probably have to do a third one of these in another year or so and follow this one up.
Mark it down for January of 2025.
All right, sounds good, man.